My name is Angelique. I just graduated from college and am a newbie at my job. Angelique, you're a new employee training, right? Kinda like orientation? On my day off, my best friend, who I've known since kindergarten all the way through high school, asked me with curiosity. We went to the same college, but were different majors. She continued on to grad school, so she's interested in my working adult life. You won't believe it. We start with a morning run every day. They say it's part of building our stamina. What? Really? Everyone? It seems she got a first taste of the toughness of working life. Well, unless there's a particular reason, everyone up to their second year has to participate. Those with 3 years or more are free, but I think about half of the entire company still does it. The other half are doing things like crosswords or brain training exercises. Whoa, interesting. I totally skipped the exercise part though. She chuckled in a peculiar way. Our company motto is also unique. It's something like, always be healthy, work hard, play hard, and live a long, active life. So for the first 30 minutes after starting work, we have time for physical and mental exercises. That is really unique. Not that I, who's not even a working adult yet, should say anything. I can interact with people from all ages and departments. It feels like an extension of a club or group in school. It's fun. I really do love the company I've joined. But don't you seem kind of tired? You're really observant. I was taken aback by my best friend's sharp observation. Yes, overall the atmosphere at the company is okay, but there is one, if not the only colossal obstacle. A supremely arrogant individual stands in my way. You want to quit? Oh, I see, just as I thought. You lack determination. The woman who is my manager is complaining bitterly with a deep sigh on a call with a part-timer who has been absent for a few days. Her loud voice, meant to be heard, seems to be filled with malice, pushing the other person into a corner. The manager, who is whispered as the queen of damaging sighs, has the destructive power to completely demoralize the person on the receiving end of her sighs. She's like, I'm taking a break, and then all of a sudden doesn't show up for days, neglecting her duties, and now she says she's quitting. How carefree. Just because she's part-time doesn't mean I'll let her get away with this. I'll push her to the very end. This goes beyond sarcasm. It's downright terrifying. The last day the part-timer came in, I noticed her body stiffen, tears welling up in her eyes. What's wrong? Are you okay? She had been scolded by the manager again. She was trembling as she spoke. It must have taken a lot of courage for her to make this phone call. Since the manager has no choice but to accept her resignation, it would be better to just let her go without any more sarcastic remarks. I found myself sighing instead. It's been about a month since I joined the company. Considering that the first week was just going round and learning from all the departments in the company, I've encountered similar situations twice in the short span of 3 weeks. It's so inconvenient. She hardly does her work and just drags everyone down. All I'm doing is pointing that out. The manager, secretly referred to as the Empress in the company, always has deep wrinkles between her eyebrows. It takes effort to replace her. It's only natural that she should have the consideration to find a replacement and finish the handover before she quits, right? The tension spreads among the employees present as the manager seeks agreement. Everyone pretended to be focused on their work, nodding without making eye contact with the manager. However, "Oh, you seem to have a problem." Well, as I was recalling the face of the part-timer, I was caught in the scrutinizing gaze of the Empress. "I'll ask you, once you receive your salary, you should take responsibility for your work, right?" Yes. If asked just about the correctness of that statement, there's no other answer but to agree. Moreover, the manager was fully aware of this and deliberately directed the question at me. "Do you think it's okay to act selfishly in the workplace?" "No, but selfishness is the enemy of work, right?" I was about to argue back, but her loud voice cut me off, and in the end, I wasn't allowed to say anything. I regret that I couldn't do anything for the part-timer who was crying back then, and that I just let the manager have her way. That's bound to stress you out. I'm sorry, I just keep complaining. I was supposed to be bragging about the company, but before I knew it, it was all just one-sided complaints from me. It's okay. You can't keep things like that bottled up, and it's not your fault you can't argue back. If you resist too much, you'll be the next target. A manager who mixes up power and authority is the worst, right? Be careful not to get on her bad side, okay? Thanks. While expressing my gratitude to my best friend, I finally brought up the main topic. About the trip, I think I can cover the costs with my part-time job savings from college and my first paycheck. I'm thinking of taking my grandparents to the resort you told me about before. Do you think they'll be pleased? This was the real issue I wanted to discuss. She is well informed about traveling, having done so extensively with her family. Of course, the inn is one that even my picky grandmother was completely satisfied with. You can't go wrong. My best friend gave her approval with a smile. I'm glad. I really want to make it a good memory since we're doing it. I was planning a trip with my grandparents using the money I had diligently saved up. My grandparents are the ones who raised me in place of my parents who passed away when I was young. I wanted to give something back to the two of them who always put me first and supported me, so I had been saving money from part-time jobs since my college days. Gifting a relaxing stay at a luxury inn with your savings and first salary, your grandparents will definitely be thrilled. Seeing my friend smile, my cheeks also relaxed. However, it was Friday afternoon, the day before the trip. I was called by the manager and went to her desk, and she said, "Classify these by category and analyze them. They're documents to be used at the beginning of next week." She was wearing an unusually bright lipstick and had a smug smile on her face. Huh? I was suddenly faced with a pile of thick documents, and my eyes widened in surprise. You want me to analyze this by the end of the break? There were several binders, each one being super heavy, and they were all out of order. Just sorting and classifying them would likely take a whole day. And to analyze them on top of that. To my confusion, the manager said with a victorious air, "I'm glad you understand my orders. You've been ignoring instructions recently, you see." Unable to hold back at the unreasonable accusations, I decided to stand my ground. I hate to point out, but it's Friday, and there are barely 2 hours left until the end of the day. It's simply impossible to finish these documents by the beginning of next week. I tried to reply as calmly as possible. Ever since our part-time worker left, the Empress seems to have picked me as her next target and has been intensifying her harassment. Excluding me from office memos, issuing wrong instructions, and then blaming me for misunderstanding. On top of that, she piles on an unmanageable amount of work that clashes with my long-awaited vacation. It seemed like my objections didn't bother the manager at all. "You're going to use it at the beginning of the week, right? It's fine if you come in over the weekend to finish it. Oh, and just to let you know, these documents are confidential, so don't take them home." Please wait a second. I tried to argue, but the manager said, "I have a meeting soon, and I'm leaving directly from here today," leaving a pile of documents on the desk and walking out. The next day as planned, I was under the traveling sky with my grandparents. Seeing my stifle yawn after yawn, my grandparents worried. "Are you okay, staying up all night and then going on a trip? Maybe we should have canceled." "I'm fine, don't worry. I was really looking forward to this trip today." Even so, my grandparents were worried about me because I'd worked all night and came home just in time for departure. Even though I had informed them in advance, it seems as though I'd caused them some anxiety. No, this won't do. It's a special trip, so I have to make it enjoyable. I cheered myself up and turned a smile towards my grandparents. "Look at this view, it's amazing. The sea is so beautiful. Don't worry about me. I worked a lot so that I could enjoy delicious food at the inn, soak in the hot spring, and sleep soundly on a fluffy bed." When I acted in such a silly manner, my grandparents finally started to enjoy the view with a relieved expression. But a nightmare was waiting for me in the midst of all this fun. "Did you finish the job I asked for? You didn't quit it, did you?" A familiar voice startled me while I was strolling alone in the inn after checking in. "Manager? Why, out of all places, why here?" As if hearing my inner voice, the manager snorted and laughed. "Ha! I ruined your weekend to teach you a lesson. I thought it was unlikely, but as I thought, you ignored my instructions, didn't you?" The manager's words clung to me like a curse, and I was hit with a severe bout of dizziness. So you deliberately assigned me an unreasonable task to coincide with my vacation? The thought of being given work to ruin my vacation made me seethe with anger. But how did you know about my plans? I knew the manager had sharp ears, but this was astonishing. You were chattering away during break time. Where are you going? When are you going? Oh, I'm so jealous. You were so pleased being praised by everybody. It was hilarious. Eavesdropping. You're the one who was talking loudly. Realizing that my innocuous chats with colleagues were being carefully listened to, I felt a chill. Besides, I'm surprised. This inn is too good for you. Excuse me? As I tilted my head in confusion, the manager did her typical, Huh? You don't get it. It's an eyesore to see commoners wandering around. Look, there's a rundown inn next door that's more your style. I don't understand what you mean. I know you find me an eyesore, but the rest is just insults and harassment, right? Just when my anger was about to boil over, that's when it happened. Is that what this is about? A voice of support came from behind me. Grandpa and Grandma too. My grandparents, whom I thought were drinking tea in the room, were standing behind me. Judging from their expressions, they must have heard almost all of my conversation with the manager. This is... I hurriedly tried to explain, but my grandfather cut me off and spoke to the manager. Nice to meet you. I'm Angelique's grandfather and have been her guardian for many years. Perhaps it's quicker to tell you that I'm the honorary chairman of the trading company that was discussing a deal with your company the other day. At those words, the manager's face turned pale. What? The honorary chairman of the industry? But your name is different from this employee's. Yes, she goes by her maternal family name. Otherwise, she would be viewed differently as a member of a famous company's founding family, right? I don't want my precious granddaughter to have a tough time at the company where she works. I am terribly sorry. I had no idea. The manager's face turned even paler. Do you think ignorance excuses rudeness? What? Oh, no, In contrast to my grandfather's calm demeanor, the manager was sweating profusely and frozen in place. I'm afraid I'll have to ask you to relay a message to your company's CEO. I'm not interested in doing business with a company that has a manager like you. Well, wait a minute, please. Ignoring the manager's shrieking voice, my grandfather continued. My granddaughter joined a company with a great motto, stay healthy, work hard, play hard, and live a long life. I thought the existence of quirky managers was necessary for the growth of the company. But your personality and behavior are harmful, he concluded. If you disagree with what I say, you can ignore it or spread bad rumors about me. My granddaughter has been recording all of this with her camera. Let's see whose side the world is on. Then he left the scene. As my grandfather said, I had been recording from the beginning of the trip, with a camera hanging around my neck to capture memories with my grandparents. I had forgotten, but the camera was still rolling at that moment. The manager, trembling, tried to cling to my grandfather, but was bluntly told, It's too late now, and collapsed on the spot. Wait a minute, can't you do something to help? After being coldly brushed off by my grandfather, the manager surprisingly turned to me for help. I refuse. You always say there's nothing a newbie like me can do. I gave back my manager the sarcasm she gave me just the other day. I managed to keep my anger in check and even managed to flash a smile. Yeah, I could probably be an actress too, I thought to myself. Then, at the start of the week at work, there was an issue with the manager. The executive who leads the running club was standing tall in our department since the morning. Our company creed is to be a company that practices living healthily, working well, playing well, and living a long life. We welcome hard work, but that doesn't mean forcing people to work, especially not if it compromises their physical and mental health. Executives who dump unreasonable amounts of work on their subordinates are merely showing their lack of managerial skills. The managing director's voice echoed throughout the floor. Excuse me? The manager, seemingly taken aback by being attacked first thing in the morning, was about to ask something calmly while clenching her fist. But the executive said, Here we have the time cards from last Friday to today. There were 5 employees who came to work on Friday and stayed until Saturday morning. 3 people worked on their days off on Saturday and Sunday, and this morning, Angelique came in early. The manager seemed more and more perplexed as she was presented with these records. What does that mean? I explained to the confused manager, prompted by the managing director. If I may, You instructed me to finish organizing and analyzing a massive amount of data by the start of the week, and told me to work during holidays if necessary, but it was impossible for me alone. Just then, the executive happened to pass by, so I was able to consult with the people around me, and with the cooperation across departments, we managed to complete the task as you instructed, spending the amount of time and manpower I just explained. Since the running club members who helped this time were there at the executive's meeting, I took the opportunity to thank them again. I only worked from Friday night to Saturday morning, and early this morning after returning from the trip. I was hardly any help, but thank you so much for helping me. When I bowed, I received kind words in return like, "We help each other out in times of trouble," and "That's what running buddies are for." The manager finally seemed to have grasped the situation, and this time she came at me. "Crossing departments, you say? I didn't authorize such a thing." She seemed intent on blaming me for overstepping her authority. "I approved it." "The managing director?" At the managing director's words, the manager was frozen in shock. The newbie in the running group, who always had a smile on her face, was in deep trouble. When I heard the situation, I found out they'd been burdened with an absurd workload. It would have been fine to leave them be, but since it was work necessary for the company, I took charge and gained everyone's cooperation. I apologized for the post-approval, but first. The managing director stared at the manager. I can't forgive the base motives behind burdening a hard-working employee who's trying to be filial to their grandparents with an impossible task just for harassment. These were the most forceful words I'd ever heard the managing director say. The managing director's face softened a bit. "The other day, my grandchild who visited me cooked up some fried eggs. Haven't recently learned how to make them. They were overly charred and even had eggshells in them, a real mess. But it was the first time my grandchild had cooked something with such dedication. To me, it was the best feast ever." He talked, overlapping his feelings for his grandchild with the sentiments a supervisor should have for their subordinates. "Despite the kitchen being a complete mess from my grandchild's cooking, my wife was in high spirits all day. That's just how it is. When I told them it was delicious, the proud smile on the young face was the most endearing thing." The managing director's unexpected story brought tears to the employees' eyes as they shared memories of their own grandparents. "I still can't forget the taste of the rice porridge my grandma made me when I was sick. And the Band-Aid my grandpa put on me saying, 'Pain, pain, go away,' seemed to heal me faster." While almost bursting out laughing at the managing director's doting grandparent stories, I felt a lump in my throat, wondering if a present for their grandparents could elicit such an emotional response. The people who helped me that day told me as I bowed, "If you think you're causing trouble, the best way to show us respect is to go and have as much fun as possible." And they sent me off on my trip. I love this company, all of you, and of course my job. That's why it's so frustrating to see part-time workers and employees like me being targeted and quitting due to unreasonable demands. Saying this with all the courage I could muster, a warm round of applause erupted from those around them. However, the manager seemed irritated by this and confronted them. "Do you think it's okay to talk like that?" The managing director quickly reprimanded her. "Silence. If you want to stay with this company, you'll lose all your titles and privileges and be demoted to the same status as a new employee. Naturally, you'll be starting from today, so the employee who joined a little before you, Angelique, will be your senior. You should be careful with your words." Upon hearing that the president had also approved, the manager shook her head intensely and yelled, "No, I won't accept this." But there was no help for her. Instead, everyone's cold glares focused on her. "If you don't like it, you're welcome to submit a resignation letter anytime." Well, what? This was the downfall of the manager known as the Empress. Afterwards, she was literally demoted to a rank-and-file employee. She stuck around the company for a bit, but maybe she couldn't handle the tough treatment she was getting because one day, she just stopped coming in. A few days later, her resignation letter came in the mail. Around that time, our company was being covered on TV. The show, titled Morning Exercise Bonds Beyond Titles, was aired, and they even talked about me and my grandparents. I heard later that the viewers loved our company rule: don't tolerate unfairness. The unjust female manager remained anonymous, but the clients clearly knew who she was. Rumor is that she doesn't stand a chance of finding a job in the same industry again. Meanwhile, our company was able to do business with my grandfather's company without any problem. Working with relatives can be a bit embarrassing, but it also keeps me on my toes. Plus, I've become even more popular within the company due to my legendary showdown with the female manager. Whoa, you're so motivated. I want to work with you once I finish graduate school, my best friend recently told me. I'm hoping that'll happen too. I've started saving again because I want to travel with my grandparents without any worries this time. It'll take time since all I can do is save bit by bit, but just sit tight, Grandma and Grandpa. I'm going to continue to cherish my precious time from here on out.
Murderer! That's what mother-in-law Olivia screamed as she lunged at me. Dodging instinctively, Olivia banged hard on the hospital room door. We were in a hospital, and I had just been called here by Olivia. She said my husband was in a traffic accident and needed me to rush over. Despite rushing to the hospital in response to her words, I was met with this treatment. "What happened? What do you mean?" I shouted, taking a step back from Olivia. "You pushed your son towards the road, didn't you?" Olivia's accusation left me dumbfounded, but I braced myself and denied it with all my might. "I didn't do such a thing. Who would say such a lie?" Olivia heard my words and laughed with a scornful smile. As I wondered why, a voice came from behind me. "It was me. To think you'd push someone and then lie about it. That's bold." The voice came from my husband in bed. He looked at me with utter disdain, his legs wrapped in bandages. "My name is Harper, a 27-year-old housewife. Before getting married, I worked in the office of a small company and met my husband, Kevin, through a friend. We are the same age. He worked for a rival company, and we hit it off, talking about work from the start. After a while, he pursued me. We got married, and I quit my job to move closer to him. Since he lived with his parents, we needed to find a new place to live together, but we couldn't find a satisfactory apartment. I hate to bring this up so soon after our wedding, but I've been hoping we could live with my mom, who's not in good health, at my family home. Of course, finding our own place would have been ideal. My mom wouldn't force us, but she'd be happy if we could live together. So, please, can we? It's not ideal, but it's alright, right?" And then my husband said. Seeing this, I realized he had always intended to bring me into his family home with Olivia, and wasn't very keen on finding our place. However, I thought maybe he was considering my feelings by not forcing the cohabitation immediately. Living with Olivia right after getting married made me anxious, but when we went to greet my in-laws at their house, Olivia seemed kind and cheerful. Besides, their home was impressively located. I told my husband, "Alright, but I'm still new to everything about Kevin's mom and the household, so please give me lots of advice on chores and everything at the beginning." He responded with a smile. "Of course, we promised to work together on this." So I agreed to the cohabitation. Once we started living together, "Don't be too tense, Harper. To me, you're a daughter, so feel free to relax," Olivia said. Olivia wasn't in good health, so I took on most of the household chores. The in-laws' house was spacious, making cleaning a significant effort. However, I made sure it was always clean. I always cooked with enthusiasm, hoping to please Olivia. Thanks to my efforts, Olivia always finished her meals, saying, "Everything Harper cooks is delicious. I'm so happy my son married you." Day by day, as I got accustomed to our routine, my initial tension eased. But then, something happened that made me feel uneasy about my smooth-sailing cohabitation with Olivia. One day, as usual, I served dinner to Olivia, who, after taking a bite, "The taste is a bit strong today," commented. That day's dinner was pot au feu, and I hadn't changed the seasoning. Puzzled, I quickly apologized. "I'm sorry, I might have added too much seasoning today." Olivia reassured me with her usual smile. "Don't worry, it's delicious." Relieved, I sighed in relief, remembering reading somewhere that tiredness can affect the seasoning of food. Maybe it's fatigue. I think I'll go to bed early today, I muttered to myself, and decided to go to bed early that day. However, from that day on, Olivia began to get grumpy every time I served meals. despite having been cheerful before. Gradually, mealtimes became a source of dread for me, and I spent them in fear. A few days later, to make matters worse, eating such rich food all the time will make you sick. You're trying to shorten my life, aren't you? Olivia scolded me. I hadn't been scolded so harshly since becoming an adult, and I was left speechless. Stammering, I replied, "It's supposed to be the same as always. I'm sorry, I'll make it later," and apologized, promising to adjust the recipes. Days like that continued almost daily. At that time, I realized that I was living in Olivia's house. I feared being kicked out if I didn't listen to her, without having prepared a next place to live or anything. So, I decided to save up for moving out while looking for a new place to live. I decided to save up money to move out so that I could move out as soon as possible. In the meantime, I resolved to study cooking for my own sake in the future. I began researching online, buying books and low-salt diets, and learning to cook with balanced nutrition, keeping the salt to a minimum and increasing the variety of dishes. Despite my efforts, Olivia's remarks only grew harsher. "A woman who can only cook like this is worthless. You're disqualified as a wife," she would say. From this point, Olivia began to monitor my every move subtly. When I cleaned the floors, she would check them with her finger and say, "The cleanliness is about 60 points. Mediocre. Maybe you should clean again." And even when I just went shopping or to the grocery store, "Don't leave me alone. Planning to run away?" Olivia would fuss. Each time I went out, "I would never run away. Please calm down," I reassured her. But for a while, my reassurances were in vain, and Olivia did not trust me, watching me all day long. Because of this, I had no personal or free time at all. However, this situation came to an abrupt end a few months later. One day, Olivia said, "Harper, I've decided not to say anything about your actions anymore. It makes things awkward and uncomfortable for both of us," she said with a smile. Confused, "Is that so? I'm glad to have earned your trust," I replied. Though I felt relieved, the previous intensity of her scrutiny made me unable to fully rejoice, suspecting she might be monitoring me in some other way. Sure enough, my suspicions were confirmed. After some investigation, I discovered Olivia had placed a GPS tracker on me without my knowledge. In today's age, the idea that someone could track me with a GPS without my knowledge was terrifying. I reached my breaking point, but confronting Olivia would not disable the GPS unless I took her mobile phone. Hoping for a resolution, I discussed it with my husband after Olivia went to bed, saying, "Kevin, while you're at work, your mom watches my every move all day. Despite being praised for my household duties before, recently she's been scoring my cleaning and cooking, and at times, she verbally abuses me. I've been doing my best without cutting corners. She's also placed a GPS tracker on me, and I've been under constant surveillance, making it hard for me to rest." However, my husband, shockingly, "Maybe she's doing it to educate you because your housework is sloppy. You should be aware of your shortcomings," defended Olivia. I was stunned and nearly angry, but since Olivia was sleeping in the bedroom, I couldn't argue back or start a fight. I realized I had no allies in this house. My only confidants were close friends from my hometown, with whom I occasionally exchanged messages to relieve stress. My parents were too busy, and my childhood home was too far away for me to seek help. From that day, the conversation between my husband and me dwindled. One day, before going to work, "I'm going to be very busy with work. There's a promotion at stake, so I won't be home for a while," my husband said. With my husband not coming home for a while, it would just be Olivia and me in the house. Honestly, living with Olivia, who constantly watches me all day and never stops with her snide remarks, felt daunting. However, given Olivia's poor health and her need for assistance, I couldn't leave her alone. I resolved to endure it until my husband returned. If Olivia's harassment didn't stop, I decided I would firmly tell my husband upon his return that I might not be able to stay mentally well in this situation, and consider leaving. While contemplating this, the next day, Olivia asked me to go shopping. Harper, could you run to the supermarket in the next town over? They have a sale on toilet paper today. Olivia said, showing me a map, insisting on that supermarket. The supermarket Olivia mentioned was about an hour's walk away. Moreover, we usually bought our toilet paper from a nearby supermarket, and the prices were no different. I wondered why not just buy it there, and couldn't immediately respond. Then Olivia pressed. Hurry up, it'll be sold out. If we miss today, we won't get it at a discount. It's only sold here, and I've heard from the neighbors that this is the best brand. So, please, she said, turning on the TV. I sighed quietly so Olivia wouldn't notice, thinking, no way. We have toilet paper at our regular supermarket. I don't want to go all the way there. Would surely make Olivia even more heated than usual. Although going was a hassle, the thought of being away from Olivia for a long time, because the supermarket was far, made me feel slightly relieved. To lighten the mood, I said, it's a supermarket I've never been to, and I'm bad with directions. I wonder if I can make it, but I'll try, looking at the map. I laughed and left the house, trying not to anger Olivia. Wondering what I'm doing with my life every day. As I was on my way back from shopping, I muttered to myself. Just then, my mobile phone rang. It was Olivia. You're taking too long shopping. Expecting to be scolded, I nervously answered the phone. However, what Olivia said next was completely unexpected. As soon as I left, Olivia said, Kevin has been in an accident and taken to the hospital. His condition is critical. Come quickly. She said urgently. I was stunned and couldn't organize my thoughts. What? Kevin's in the hospital? That was all I could say. I wanted to ask more, but Olivia hung up abruptly. Left without details, my anxiety grew. All I knew was that my husband was injured badly enough to require hospitalization. Was his life in danger? Was he in a state where he couldn't communicate? Various thoughts raced through my mind, and I was distracted all the way to the hospital. A few minutes later, with prayers for his safety, I cautiously opened the door to Kevin's hospital room. Seeing Kevin lying in bed, I asked, Kevin, are you okay? I rushed to his side. Kevin seemed conscious. However, he stubbornly refused to meet my eyes. As I wondered why, Kevin has suffered serious injuries, breaking both legs in the accident. It's your fault, isn't it? What are you going to do about this? Olivia suddenly stood up and yelled at me. Me? Of course, having no idea what she was talking about, I was stunned. Then my husband looked at me and sneered. Don't play dumb. You pushed me from behind while I was working. Because of that, I was pushed onto the road and hit by a motorcycle. He shouted. Even the victim himself blamed me for the accident. I didn't do such a thing. Despite my desperate denials, Olivia berated me. Enough already. I've told you multiple times that you're the culprit. Just admit it. What you've done is as bad as murder. So pay for the medical bills and compensation. And let's get a divorce quickly. You're the worst. She yelled at me loudly. Being treated as a criminal for something I didn't do was unbearable. So I said, Wait, there's no way I did anything. I wasn't even there. And I don't know Kevin's work schedule or his days off, right? I denied it with all my might, unwilling to accept being treated as a criminal. At that moment, the police and a woman entered the hospital room. The police greeted my husband and then went to talk to the attending doctor. The woman who stayed looked surprised to see me and said, Thank you for earlier. I'm sorry for barging in unexpectedly. My apologies for the late introduction. My name is Taylor. I'm a close colleague of Kevin. I came to visit and talk. She bowed deeply and greeted me politely. My husband, surprised, and said, you know each other? To which I replied to my husband, well, and looked at Taylor. That morning, I had noticed something my husband forgot. This is important, I need to deliver it right away. What my husband forgot was the keys to his company car. He sometimes brought it home and mentioned it was for driving a work vehicle. I tried calling my husband but couldn't reach him, so I decided to deliver the keys directly to his office. The woman who handled it when I rushed to deliver the keys was Taylor. Unaware of anything, my husband pointed at me. "Taylor, you better not get involved with this one. Truly the worst kind of person," and told Taylor. Taylor calmly asked my husband, "Why would you say that?" My husband started to get agitated. "Because this serious injury was all her fault. I was pushed from behind while at work, ended up on the road, and then got run over by a motorcycle," Taylor said. "That's terrible." My husband sought sympathy from Taylor, saying, "Yeah, it happened right around 12 p.m. when I was looking for a place to have lunch. It's the worst." Taylor's expression suddenly turned stern. She glared at my husband. "That's strange. Harper was at our workplace at that time, delivering the company car keys you forgot. So your story doesn't add up." Taylor, filled with anger, continued. "And isn't this key a duplicate you made? All keys for the company cars are accounted for, and there's no record of 2 keys for this car. This key shouldn't exist, so why was it at your house?" My husband's face turned pale. "Maybe my memory is fuzzy from hitting my head in the accident. I have no recollection of the keys. Could you maybe ask the admin staff about it?" And he nervously said. Taylor dismissed this and said, "I won't let you say you have no recollection. Discovering a key duplicate is a serious matter for the company. I didn't come here without doing my homework. I've already spoken to Arya from admin." Hearing this, my husband suddenly panicked and said, "Please stop. My wife is here. I admit I made the duplicate." Feeling suspicious, I asked Taylor, "Can you tell me more about this, please?" Taylor agreed. "I understand it's difficult, but I believe hiding the truth is a greater sin. It turns out your husband duplicated the key to use the company car for rendezvous with Arya." Hearing this, I confronted my husband. "What? You were cheating?" He continued to make excuses. "No, maybe someone else used the car pretending to be me. To pin the blame on me, they might have put the key in my bag." My husband had a smug look on his face, thinking he had come up with a clever excuse, but Taylor sighed. "We checked the dashcam footage, and there's no mistake that it was you and Arya cozying up in that car. Should we have Harper confirm it too?" Faced with this, my husband clenched his back teeth and sighed deeply before admitting to the affair. Taylor told my husband, "We'll contact you about your punishment later. Just don't expect a promotion. In fact, you should prepare yourself for a demotion." My husband pleaded in a panic. "Taylor, please. Anything but a demotion. I have medical bills coming up. Look at my legs." But Taylor, without changing her expression, refused. "Using the company car for an affair and breaking your legs are unrelated issues." At that moment, the police returned to the room. The officer said to me and Taylor, "Sorry for the delay. We've confirmed that Kevin was pushed onto the road and has broken his legs." Hearing this, my husband, who had been sobbing, suddenly had a calm face and said, "See? It's true my wife pushed me. Look, Harper, it's better to confess. Lying will only make things worse." The officer looked at my husband curiously and said, "Well, I didn't say Harper pushed you. We've identified the perpetrator from the security camera footage." Suddenly, Olivia began to show clear signs of agitation. She laughed artificially and said to the police, "You don't need to check the camera footage. The victim himself said Harper pushed him, and that's the best evidence, right?" The officer, with a serious face, replied, "Mom, please don't pretend. We've confirmed on video that you were the one who pushed your son. He was hit by a motorcycle immediately after being pushed, so it doesn't seem like he had the chance to see who pushed him. We'll need to verify this with your son as well." Olivia, realizing she couldn't escape, defiantly admitted, Yes, I pushed my son. So what?" I couldn't contain my anger and said, "How could you cause an accident for your own child and then blame me? That's truly the lowest." Unperturbed, "I didn't want to get caught. I made you go out far so that there wouldn't be any contradiction about your alibi when the accident happened." Olivia replied. Me and Taylor were speechless. My husband was shocked, realizing his own mother had nearly killed him. Still unable to comprehend, he started to lose it. "Hey, Mom, what do you mean? You're not going to say it's a lie that you didn't do it? Why? Explain!" He screamed, almost raising his hand, so the police hurried to stop him. Even restrained, he wouldn't stop talking. To me, "Harper, I'm sorry for the affair. You don't have to do the housework or take care of Mom anymore. Let the grandma who caused the accident do everything," he said. Olivia, frightened, shook her head. Seeing this, my husband became more agitated. "What? Grandma, you can't say you can't do it. Before Harper came, you used to give me an allowance and did all the housework, right? Anyway, I can't work with this body, so you better work, even if you have to crawl," he yelled. Stunned, I listened. This is Kevin's true nature. I've been verbally abused and taken care of him every day. I thought I was finally freed from this life when you came, Olivia said. Though I felt slightly sorry for her, I couldn't sympathize with Olivia. I had no intention of helping her or continuing to live in the in-laws' house, even as the police restrained her son. Kevin has always treated me terribly. Before we got married, he treated me like a slave. He would gamble away our money and then yell at me to work harder. At home, he wouldn't lift a finger to help with cleaning or cooking, but had no problem complaining about everything. I hoped things might change after we got married, but seeing how he treated Harper, I realized nothing had changed. I was afraid of what you might do if I confronted you. Harper might get fed up and leave, and then I'd be the sole focus of Kevin's aggression. As my health began to decline, your presence became more and more terrifying to me. Before I knew it, I had pushed you away, she explained. Olivia's expression remained cold. After that, Olivia went on to vividly describe to the police how violent and oppressive her husband had been, pouring out all her grievances. Olivia's story was relentless, and Taylor and I left the hospital as instructed by the police. Ultimately, Olivia was arrested for attempted murder. There were various circumstances, including the terrible way her husband and his family treated her. However, because Olivia had a clear intent to kill her husband, she couldn't avoid arrest. Even as she was arrested, Olivia didn't resist. In fact, "If being away from Kevin means going to jail, I'll go gladly. Finally, I'm free from this painful life," she said through tears. Life at my in-laws' house was mostly difficult. Having been cheated on by my husband, living together was no longer an option, and with Olivia needing care gone, I had no reason to stay at the in-laws' house. So, I packed my bags and left the in-laws' house before my husband was discharged from the hospital. My husband avoided arrest as the victim. However, he faced demotion for making a duplicate key to the company car and having an affair with a junior staff member. Furthermore, he was fired for repeatedly using company money to cover expenses for dates with his mistress. No severance pay, and he was even asked to compensate for the damages he caused to the company. My husband complained. "Wait, I've been working all this time and they won't give me $1? What a black company! I'm better off without them." It seems he had no awareness that his actions were criminal. He planned to marry his mistress, but Arya, having no interest in caring for a man with both legs broken and unemployed, left him, leaving him alone. I filed for divorce from my husband. I made sure to claim compensation from both my husband and Arya. I kept my husband's contact information until the compensation was fully paid. But he sent messages daily, saying, "I'm sorry, I'll reflect on my actions. Please, let's start over." Feeling terrified, I deleted his contact information as soon as everything was settled. As for me, I found a place to live, explained my situation, and returned to my previous job. Although it was a company I had left once, everyone welcomed me back warmly. Without children, I decided to focus on my work and build my career, living each day with integrity.